In order to navigate around the computer, you will be using a device called a mouse. If you're using a laptop computer, which has the keyboard and the screen integrated together, you will find a touchpad built in the computer below the keyboard section. If you're new to using a laptop, I would highly recommend purchasing a wireless mouse, sometimes referred to as a USB mouse, which is easier to use than a touchpad. However, if you're using a desktop computer where the screen and the keyboard are separate, you'll be using a separate mouse already. Within this video, I'll be talking about how to use a mouse rather than a touchpad, and will also be controlling the mouse from my right hand, and the majority of people use this hand to navigate. However, if you find it easier to use the mouse in your left hand, then you can use that also if you prefer. On the screen, you can see a little white arrow. This is called the cursor. If you move your mouse around, you will see that the cursor follows the movement of the mouse. On the mouse, you should also see two buttons and sometimes a small middle wheel. You have a left and a right button, along with, on some mouses, a small wheel called a scroll wheel. We'll talk about how these work. Now I'm moving the mouse to the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, and I'm going to use my right index finger to left-click on the Windows icon. I can then see a list of programs that I can use. For example, if I wanted to open up the internet, I can left-click on a program called Microsoft Edge. Depending on the computer you are using, it might state Internet Explorer instead. So if I left-click there, it was at Microsoft Edge. And then if I wanted to close this down again, I can then click the cross in the top right-hand corner, and that takes me back to the front screen. For the majority of activities involved on the computer, you will just use a single left click to open and close a program. However, if you're wanting to use a program on the desktop, say for instance the Microsoft Edge program here, what we were doing is we were doing what's known as double clicking. So what we're going to do is we are going to double left click twice in succession. So I'm going to do a double left click, and again it opens into that program for me there. On your mouse, you also have a right button, and to begin with, you won't be using this that often. However, what this does is if you right click somewhere, for instance on the desktop screen, it will provide you with a list of options. For example, let's say you wanted to change the background image displayed on the desktop, you can do this in the personalize area. So at this point, if I then left click on personalize, I can see here a section where I can change the desktop screen itself. The other function you have on your mouse is what's referred to as a scroll button. So if there was a page or a particular section of the screen you're looking at and you wanted to see there's actually further information you want to be displayed, what you can do is you can either use the scroll wheel to actually scroll down the page itself, so by moving the wheel towards you, and then if you move it back up again, it will go back up the page. Or alternatively, if you don't have a scroll wheel, there's a little cross in the bottom, little arrow at the bottom right-hand corner, so I can left click on that to bring it down the page. Or alternatively, I can left click whilst holding it down and drag it up and down the page that way instead. So that's what we're just going through. We're showing you how to left click, to right click, and you also use the scroll wheel on your mouse if you have one as well.